but we're talking some in-state tour here because we've held both events. We've had roughly 200 plus players and I don't know, 28 programs come through. And, people, how do you identify the programs we bring? What I try to do is I make sure any program that we know that has a potential Division I or FCS guy that's on our radar, that's how we kind of invite who we come. We can't invite every school. Like it's really hard. And I know I get emails all the time from people at other schools, like, how come you're not doing this school or that school? And it's not like we can do every single team. So we try to generally pick around 25 to 30 programs to come, but it gives you a good taste of the talent coming in, and Omaha versus Lincoln or Omaha versus the state discussion. And, we've seen it kind of play out on the field the last several years, but I mean, the gap between Omaha and the rest of the state, not just Lincoln, in the Class A type level, it continues to widen. I mean,
it's really interesting when you think about it. I mean, if you just look at Millard South versus Lincoln, I mean, Millard South's got how many guys right now with Power 5 getting Power?
They have three with Power 5, but Jet Tamala is probably going to be a 4. So they're going to have 4 for sure.
Yeah, in the city of Lincoln, Rob has 1. The city of Lincoln has 1. Jackson Carpenter,
and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Millard South 4 or 5. City of Lincoln 1. I mean, that's amazing if you think about it.
West Side's got 2 right now. Millard North has 2. Platteview has 1.
See, it's heavily tilted.
Wahoo has 1. I mean, so yeah, and Bellevue West. I mean, the guy in the middle of that picture there, Keith, is going to be a guy. I mean, he's already got an Iowa State offer. So, it's interesting just to kind of look. And that's West Side. We didn't actually get Christian Jones, though. He didn't make the in-state tour this year, but here's Creighton Prep. They had a young team a year ago, so they don't have anybody yet at that level, but it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out, because I don't really today see a Lincoln team in the top 5 of the state.
And we're not dogging on Lincoln.
No, it's just reality discussion.
Yeah, it's just, we're talking about
look at Central, by the way. I mean, Central's
Omaha
got some
leads.
dudes. Central's got some dudes. I mean,
we didn't need to talk about Central. Yeah,
the guy in the middle there, Ike Ackerman, he's a guy. But yeah, Millard North has 2 guys with Husker offers, and then the third guy there, Henry Rayberg, has FCS offers. They have 3 guys.
Rob, you just think about Millard South, Sean. Think what they line up. I mean, they're going to line up with a quarterback, Jet Tamala, who's Lincoln Riley's coming to see in the spring. Nebraska, he's already thrown for Nebraska. He already threw for Glenn Thomas and Satterfield. Then they line up 2 Power 5 level receiver or tight ends, both 6'6", both 6'6", and then Amari and Jackson, 6'1" receiver. Millard South's all-time leading receiver as a sophomore. With 2 years left, he's already the school's all-time.
He'll have a chance at C.J. Johnson's career record,
career state record.
Yeah, I think he needs to average like about 900 a season, or a little over 900 and something a year. Which, if they play in 12 or 13 games, which pretty good chance they're going to play 12 or 13 games a year, he'll get that record.
Think about what they line up. I mean, that's amazing.
So, Sean, you've talked about this before, about the level of transfers in the high school ranks. Like, how much does that play into teams like Millard South stockpiling so much more talent than almost an entire city than what's in Lincoln right now?
The dynamics of Lincoln versus Omaha for football are different. Omaha's got multiple school districts. There's districts like Bennington, Gretna, and Elkhorn you can't go to. Like, you have to live there. You have to pay the property taxes because they're really expensive taxes. So you can't transfer in those districts. But West Side, which when we were growing up in the 80s and 90s, that was an exclusive district where you had to live there. West Side now allows transfer options in. Millard, if there's room, will take transfers in.
Okay.
OPS, as long as the school's not full, will take transfers in. So it's just allowed kind of a Pandora's box where talent can move around. And I mean, it's not out of the question for a kid that lives in Elkhorn to attend Bellevue West.
Right.
And that's a 35-minute drive. It's not out of the question for guys to go all around the city to go to high school every day. Where in Lincoln, you see it to an extent, but it's just a different framework. I mean, LPS has a different model of how they operate their athletics than what you see in the Omaha district. I mean, West Side's a great example. Like they've just continued to build facilities, and Dr. Lucas there, their superintendent, and Tom Kirkman. I mean, they're building a sports juggernaut over there with all their athletics and resources. Where LPS has a model where if one school doesn't get something, or if every school can't get it, no one can get it. So like Lincoln Southeast should have its own stadium, but they can't because not every LPS school could have their own stadium.
Okay.
And that's the model of LPS.
There's some serious knowledge being disseminated right now by Sean. That was
like
amazing.
You can't fundraise.
Throw the ball out there, let them
like,
get it.
If you were a booster and said, "Hey, I want to give Lincoln Southeast football $100,000," you couldn't just do that.
Couldn't do it. You got what?
It's got to go through the district and red taped and distributed. It's just a little bit trickier, I think, with the way Lincoln, and I feel like that's hurt the overall growth compared to what you see in Omaha, where it's allowed some programs in Omaha to really advance and move forward. I mean, they're going to Phoenix, Arizona.
North South.
Yeah. Creighton Prep's going to go to St. Louis. Miller North's going to go to Denver.
I'll be darned.
To play football games this year.
Yeah, that's a big deal for those kids, by the way.
And we had our surveys. That was a question in the anonymous surveys.
Okay.
If you could go out of state to play a game, where would you go? And a lot of the coaches were like, not even a thought, because it wouldn't be allowed in our school district.
Interesting.
So,
yeah, the in-state tour is amazing. I mean, it's a great service for those kids. It gives them exposure. You hear that a lot from the coaches, and there's people who start to hear about it. It was really valuable for me, Sean, because I got to talk to the 3 Nebraska 2025 commits: Caden Vermoss, Tyson Terry, and Connor Booth. I really enjoyed it. It's interesting. Connor Booth's an interesting kid. Big running back, 6'2.5", 6'1.5", 215. Going to play baseball. Getting recruited by Oral Roberts for baseball. Getting recruited by Wichita State for baseball. And he's gonna do the baseball thing, which I'm always skeptical of, by the way. But he's going to try it. He's going to be a running back at Nebraska. He's going to try to play baseball. I was talking to Amon Green, by the way. He wanted to do that. Remember Amon Green by chance? Amon Green,
heard of him.
wanted to play. He was a great baseball player, central center fielder, hit 400. Tom and Frank were like,
Damon Benning was a good baseball player.
Yes,
too.
he was.
And that's why he went to Northwest.
Yes, he was
Because
a
of
great
Bill
baseball.
Olson.
Yeah.
Eric Strickland played for the Marlins.
Yep.
Eric Strickland could have played football, baseball, and basketball in Nebraska.
And he tried football. He did play football a little bit. He did it.
And then he played for the Marlins minor league in 1 or 2 summers, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like their developmental.
Absolutely. Yeah, he was a minor league player for the Marlins.
Who was it? Kyrie Cooper.
Kyrie Cooper. Yeah. Remember
he played.
He
baseball.
did. That was the first time where I heard a coach just publicly say,
"This ain't working out."
No, remember it was
Ted Gilmore.
Ted Gilmore, like during one of those group interviews we do, somebody asked him about Cooper. He said, "I don't know. He's not over here. He's with baseball. I don't know how he's doing." It was clear he wasn't happy.
It's like he was okay at both, but not great at one. Like by doing 2, it just didn't work very well.
No, it's hard. It's hard to do. Now, I'm not saying Connor Booth can't do it, but Connor Booth himself said, the only way the coaches are going to allow is if I'm playing baseball. Like if he's riding the pine for Will Bolt, just it'd be wasting your time. Yeah.
Ty Kildau was one that played both. Ended up switching to be a baseball player, but
Ty Kildau.
He was faster than fast. He ran 4.3, and he never got thrown out. Like
really,
on one of those early, it was an Erstad team, I think. But
it was.
If he got on first base, he was stealing second and third like every time.
And did he play? Did he end up playing football?
Yeah, he did. He tore his knees out. But he was as fast of a football player as I've seen come through here.
Anyway, the in-state tour worked out well. Jackson Carpenter was there on Sunday. We referenced him. He's the only player in Lincoln with Power 5 offers, Power 5 attention. It's really down to Nebraska and Kansas now.
Like K-State and Iowa and Northwestern have been involved, but I think those are.
It's down to them. It's down to Kansas, Nebraska. It's interesting. It's really interesting to watch this. I don't know who will win out there. I think it's really close. His dad, of course, is Tim Carpenter, who has 3 national title rings at Nebraska. But he insists his dad's not, just stays out of it.
And we know Tim. That's how Tim is. Yeah. He's not going to meddle.
Yeah. So he's a receiver. We'll see where this goes. What do you say, Sean? When's he going to make his decision? Spring or early summer?
Yeah, spring. a lot of these guys too are going to graduate early. I mean, like it had to be surreal this week for a guy like Jackson Carpenter. He just played his last basketball game of his life, probably. You know, they lost to Miller North in the district finals.
Yeah.
And that's it. You know, and Brendan Frager was on that team, and he's a junior, played his last basketball game. Now Frager's going to come in early, like in the summer.
Yeah, he'll be here in June.
Now Carpenter would go through December, but just not do basketball.
Right. Yep. Frager will be here in June. I assume the plan is to redshirt, give him a year in the program, work on his skills, get the strength and conditioning up, be ready to go in 25, 24.
Yeah, that was a disappointing end of their season to see him get blown out by him. I mean,
he was playing his best basketball of the season down the stretch, dropping like multiple 30-point games. He broke the school record with 39 points. So he got his groove towards the end. So unfortunately, he couldn't take it further in the postseason.
State his name one more time.
Braden Frager.
Yeah. Their team, though, had so many good athletes. It just didn't gel. It didn't click for whatever reason.
Happens.
Never quite clicked.
With the number, I mean, yeah, Jackson on the bench. I mean, Jackson they only played him like 8 minutes a game or something. He wasn't like, and you know, I think of the great like Lincoln Southeast teams. They're football players. You just played them. You're like, hey, my coach is that way. He's like, I don't care if you don't play basketball all year. Like, I want these athletes on the court. You know,
Barrett Rude, go out there and play center.
I don't care if you can't do all the summer league stuff. You play football. Yeah, you're an athlete. We're gonna play you. And you don't see that as much because there's so much more specialization.
That's
in some of these guys.
You said the key word, Sean.
But if I'm a coach, I'm playing like I don't know why a guy like Jackson Carpenter with a 37-inch vertical and he can play defense. I know the Nebraska coaches when they watched him play, so the Nebraska coaches went to Jackson Carpenter's game and Jackson goes through warmups pretty light usually. He knew the coach wasn't going to play him a ton, so he put on a dunk display in warmups.
Jackson did.
Yeah, just went off and
how about that?
Just to show the coaches what he could do. And the Carpenters were like, why is Jackson? They realized he was showing the Nebraska coaches what he could do.
Interesting. Yeah, Sean, you have kind of an old school take there on playing guys, but I agree with you. But it's so, Sean, world changed.
Yeah, you reward specialization more than sometimes true, and especially in those big schools, it's hard. I mean, there's a lot of kids.